We begin the Gemara today towards the bottom of Daf Yutes Amud Beis, about 10 lines up from the Amud. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Brayso the following story. Pa Machas, once it happened, Olu Kol Yisrael L'Regel Yerushalayim. All Yidden came up for the Yom Tiv to be L'Regel to Yerushalayim. V'lehoya le'mayim lishtais. There wasn't water for all the people to drink. Halach Nagdim ben Gurion etzel Aden Echad. So Nagdim ben Gurion went to one master, a person that had a lot of water, and Amalai said to him, Halveini shteim esrim mainos mayim loyle regalim. Lend me 12 springs of water, or 12 wells of water, springs of water for all the people that are oile regel. And vani eten lecha, and I will pay you back shteim esre einis mayim, 12 springs of water. In other words, I'll see to it that all the water that they're going to drink from there will be refilled. It's going to rain and fill up the water. And then he gave him a guarantee. Vim eni noisen lecha. And if I'm not going to give you back the water, I will give you 12 kikar of silver, a big amount of money. And the Kabbalah's man, he gave him a date by when his wells are going to be refilled. So now that date came. And in the morning it did not rain yet, and his wells were empty. So this master sends to Nagdimi ben Gurion, Shagarli, send me oy mayim, all water, oy mais, or money, sheyeshli biyatcha, that you owe me, that's in your hands, that you owe me. Shalach loy, so Nagdim ben Gurion sent him back the message, Adayin yeshli zman, kol hayom kuloi. I still have time the entire day. Again, Adayin yeshli zman, I still have time, that is. The entire day is mine. I still have the entire day to make sure that the rain will come. But it came the afternoon. Shalach loy, again he sends to him and says, Shgarli, send me oy mayim, or water, oy mois, sheyesh li biyatcha, or the money that I have in your hands. Shalach loy, again he sent him back the message, Adayin yesh li shehos bayayim, I still have time in the day. It's still time that it should rain. Came by mincha, came late in the afternoon, mincha time, shalach loy. Again he sent him the message, shkarli oy mayim oy moy, send me either water or money, sheyesh li biyatcha, that I have in your hands. Shalach loy again, Nagdim ben Gurion sends him back the message, adayin yesh li shehus b'yayim, I still have time in the day that it could rain and fill up all your wells. Ligleg alav oisei adon, so this master was mocking Nagdim ben Gurion, and he said as follows, Omar, he said, kol hashana kula, an entire year, lo yardu geshamim, it did not rain. Achshav yardu geshamim, suddenly now, these last hour or so, whatever it is in the afternoon, it's all of a sudden it's going to rain. Achshav yardu geshamim, now it's going to rain. So now what happens? So nichnas lebeis hamerchetz besimcha. So he goes to the bathhouse to wash himself, and he's all happy because he thinks to himself, by the time I'm going to come out, I'm going to go collect all the money that I'm owed. While he was going to the bathhouse, all happy about the money that he's going to make, Nagdim went into the Beis HaMikdash, Keshu Atzif, and he was sad about the fact that it did not rain. And this Atif, he wrapped himself, and V'omad b'tfila, and he stood and he davened. And Omar Lefanav, he says today, Master of the universe, it's well known for you. I did not do any of this for my own honor, or for the honor of my father's house. I did it for your honor. That there should be water for the people that came to the Beis HaMikdash. Yad, immediately, niskashru shamayim ba'ovim. The skies became full of clouds, and the yardu geshamim, and it began raining, and it rained so much in that little amount of time, and it filled all of his springs of water, all the sources of water that he had, it all got filled up, and not only that, vaisiru, and it even flowed over. There was even extra. And now this Adam, this master, came out of the bathhouse, and Nagdim ben Gurion yatsa mi Beis HaMikdash, and Nagdim ben Gurion comes out of the Beis HaMikdash, and keshepagu zeh b'zeh, so they met one another. Amaloi, so Nagdim ben Gurion now tells him, Tenli dmei mayim yaiseh sheyesh li biyatcha. Now you should pay me back for the extra water that you got from this rain, that it overflowed. So you owe me money for the amount of rain that I brought you. Amaloi, so this master tells Nagdim ben Gurion, Yidei ani, I know that you're right. Shloi hirish HaKadosh Baruch Hu esei lamai ela b'shvilcha. That the Eibishter has not brought about this major commotion in the world, such a sudden, strong rain, only for your sake. Ela dayin, however, still, yeshli pischem pe alecha, I can still open my mouth on you, sha'itzi mimcha es ma'isai, that I can take out my money from you. Why? Shekvar shaka chama. Because the sun already went down, ugishamim b'rishusi yardu. And when it began raining, so that was already rain, that's my rain that came down after sundown. We made up a date, and the sun came down after sundown. It looked very dark outside. So now what happened? Chazav and nichnas lebeis hamikdash. So Nagdim ben Gurion goes back into the Beis Hamikdash. Nisatev va'amad betfilah. He wraps himself and he davens, and va'amar, and he says, va'amar lefanav, he says in front of the Eibishter, Rebbeinu shalaylam, hoida, let it be known, sheyesh lecha ahuvim ba'ilamcha, that you have the people in the world that you love. Miyad, immediately as he davened and said this, nispazru ha'avim, the clouds all scattered, and v'zarcha chama, and the shine of the sun came out. And at that moment, this master said to him, if the sun had not pierced out from the clouds, I would have an opening to speak against you and to take out my money that I had in your possession. So you see here this unbelievable story in the Gemara. If you compare this to the story of Nagdim ben Gurion and to the story of Chayni Amagal, here Nagdim ben Gurion davens, and immediately the Eibishter answers him. Unbelievable. And the first time around, the Eibishter answers him because he's not even davening for his own sake. He's davening for the kavod of the Eibishter, for the Oile Regalim. So over there, he's not davening for himself, b'chlal. But then the second time around, he's davening for himself because he doesn't want to have to pay the money. And he tells the Eibishter, let it be known that there are people that you love in this world, and the Eibishter again answers him right away. Tremendous chus he had.
Saying the Kadosh Baruch Hu is answers the same thing that we just learned about.
Yeah, exactly. The Eibishter is a mevatel gzeira and answers. Tane,
stories.
Yeah.
Says that Nagdim ben Gurion
Yeah.
Gadol Chaya.
Yeah, a big, very rich man.
That doesn't say, before we had that, it actually said Chacham Chaya.
Okay. Apparently he was no simple man. He must have been a big tzaddik as well. The Eibishter is listening to him
What I'm trying to
davening.
bring out is, if he was an Usher Gadol, what was this whole story then?
Okay, good.
Pay him the money and Shalom Aleichem.
No, okay, good.
And
Say
what did the
that.
miracle for?
Okay. Good, okay. You'll be a alle Yidden gesagt. Yeah.
No.
Tane, so we learned in a Braise.
There's more to the story that we don't know.
Loi Nagdimin Shemai, his original name is not really Nagdimain, Ela Baini Shemai. His name was Baini. Lama Nikra Shemai Nagdimain. Why did he get this nickname of Nagdimain? Sheniktara Chama Bavurai. Because the sun came out because of him. Rashi or Taisus here actually says. Rashi says it shined. Taisus says that it like pierced through. Mekad Baharim, he brings a lashon of the Gemara. So the shine of the sun pierced through the clouds to shine to prove that it's still daytime. So that's how he got his name. You see here from the very name that he got that the second time that he davened and the Eibishter listened to him is greater than the first time. And that's why his nickname was the second time. There was a much bigger thing that the Eibishter answered him, just that he shouldn't have to pay money. Tana Rabbana midot na Braise. Shloisha, there were three individuals that niktama lehem chama bavuran, that the sun stopped and it remained, niktama is maloshin kedma, in other words, east side. The sun remained towards the east and it did not go down on the west for their sake. So in other words, what really happened there to Nagdimin was, it was already after Shkia, but the sun sort of stopped on its tracks, or it remained there, or it went back there. I mean, it's mashma the Gemara that it remained there, and in order for him to be able to prove to this Adain that he doesn't owe him the money. So these three individuals are Moshe, and then Yeshua, and Nagdimin ben Gurion. So the Gemara now will explain where we see this. Bishlam Nagdim ben Gurion. So now the story of Nagdim ben Gurion, Gemara. This is the tradition. This is the story that we just mentioned here, that the sun remained there, so he could prove it to this person that it was still daytime. Yeshua Nami. Regarding Yeshua, where do we know that the sun stopped for him? Kra. There's a pasuk. The Chsiv, it says, Vayidoim Hashemesh Vayarach Vayareach Amad, that the sun was still and the moon stopped in its tracks. That this is over there, Shemesh begiving daim, and when the Yeshua was fighting and he needed the light of the sun to be able to continue chasing the enemies. Ela Moshe, bought by Moshe Rabbeinu. Minala, from where do we see that the sun stopped for him? Rabbi Elazar says, Asya, we learn out Gzeira Shava, Ochel, Ochel. Ksiv Hacha, it says by Yeshua, Ochel Teis Pachtacha. I will begin giving your fear upon them. Ksiv, and by Moshe it also says, Hasam, Ochel Godlecha. I will begin making you great. So by Moshe Rabbeinu as well, the sun stopped. So Machlokes in Mefarshim, whether this was by the Machama with Oig Melech HaBashan or with Sichaim. It's one of those two wars over there that Moshe Rabbeinu had that the sun stopped for him. No, this is psukim later over there, either by Oig or by Sichaim. Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni Amar. Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni says there's another Gzeira Shava. Asye teis. Ksiv Acha Achel teis Pachtacha. I will begin to place your fear. Ksiv Hasan by Moshe it also says B'Yoim teis Hashem Esau Meiri. The Eibusher will give a Meiri into your hands. So we learn out this Gzeira Shava of teis. Rabbi Yechanan Amar. Rabbi Yechanan has a third source that it stopped by Moshe Rabbeinu. Asye Migufi Dikra. He learns it out from what it says in the pasuk itself by Moshe. It says that Yishmon Shemacha, they'll hear about you, V'rogzu, V'cholu Mipanecha, and they'll be very, very trembling and afraid of you. Eimesei Rogzu V'cholu Mipanecha. When is it that they were so afraid of Moshe? B'shah Sheniktim Aleichem Ala Moshe. When the sun remained and it stopped in its tracks and it remained towards the east, that's when they were very afraid from Moshe Rabbeinu. The next thing it said in the Mishnah was, when you have a city that it didn't rain for 40 days, that there was a break of the rain, and then the Mishnah quoted a pasuk where it says that you have a situation where there's one city that gets rain, one city that does not get rain, so the city that does not get rain has to fast. It brought a pasuk, Amtarti al ir achas, well ir achas lo yamter. So the Gemara will explain now. Omarav Yehuda Omarav, Shteyan leklolo. That pasuk that says that one city gets rain and one city does not get rain, for both of those cities it's a curse. And the reason is because the city that doesn't get rain, obviously it's a curse, but even the city that does get rain, it means it gets so much rain that it swamps the fields and it kills all the produce. Another pasuk here, the Gemara is going to bring a bunch of different psukim that Rav Yehuda or Rav Yehuda Marav explained them. And all they're going to explain psukim that seem to be negative, and he's going to explain it in the positive. So Yerushalayim was like a nida, like a woman that's in a matzav of a nida, which has to be separated from her husband. So seemingly the pasuk is saying something which is negative, right? This is a pasuk in Eicha. So Amar Rav Yehuda Marav lebracha. It's actually written as a blessing. Kin nida, compared to a nida, how? Ma nida yesh la heter. Just like a nida eventually has a heter to be back with her husband. Af Yerushalayim yesh la takana. So too the city of Yerushalayim, there's a takana that Yidden could do tshuva and then come back to Yerushalayim. So it means something positive. Another pasuk over there, it says, Hoysa kal mana, that it's the city of Yerushalayim, or the Yidden, that is, are considered to be like an almana. Amar Rav Yehuda, so Rav Yehuda said, Lebracha, this is also a blessing. Ke almana, the pasuk is saying that Yidden are compared to an almana, but v'lay almana mamish, but not literally like an almana where the husband passed away. Ella rather, ki isha shaholach bailo lemedina sayam, a woman like her, that her husband left overseas. However, he makes it clear that he's planning on coming back. So therefore, she's not mamish and almana. The Rebbe spoke about this Gemara, about all these psukim here that are teaching eicha on the positive. This is the source of this. There's a series of Maimorim of the Tzemach Tzedek, which teaches a big part of eicha, all in the positive. The market is from this Gemara. Specifically regarding this union of ki almana, so the Rebbe points out, the Gemara doesn't just simply say that this is a husband that went overseas. That itself would be enough to explain that it's not a real almana. An almana is a husband passed away. But if here the husband is alive and he went overseas. But the Gemara adds, and v'daitoi lachzar eleh, which means that the husband made clear that he's planning on coming back. Because if the husband is overseas, so for this woman, whether the husband passed away, whether the husband is alive, but he's overseas, but she doesn't know that he's planning on coming back. For her, she can feel like a real almana. So therefore the Gemara is adding that he's constantly thinking about her, and it's the same thing also with the Eibishter, when there's a siluk of the Gilui of the Eibishter. So it's not stam that the Eibishter is planning on coming back one day, but the daitoi lachzar aleh, and therefore it has an effect on Yidden here in this world that the Eibishter is constantly thinking about us. Another pasuk, v'gam ani nasati eschem nivzim u'shvelim. The Eibishter says, in the time of Golus, I've made you to be despicable and very low. So this also has a hidden blessing. Amar Rav Yehuda lebracha. There's a blessing here. Why? The loy makminon minon loy reishi nara v'loy gizirifti. That a Yid will never be appointed to be reishi nara, which are the people that collect the taxes when you go over the bridges on rivers, and also not gizivriti, which are also police. Rashi says which is police that are enforcing the law. So these are jobs which nobody likes these individuals, the tax collectors or the police. And because Goyim consider Yidden to be low, they don't appoint Yidden to such kind of jobs. So there's a silver lining here. Another pasuk, V'hika Hashem es Yisrael kasheyono dakone b'mayim. The Eibusher will hit the Yidden just like a reed that's floating around, moving around in the water. So this is also a blessing. This is being said for a blessing. And he brings a source what the blessing here is. What is the meaning of another pasuk where it says, Nemonim pitzei oyev, that the wounds that I get from my friend, from one that loves me, is nemonim. It's something which is faithful. In other words, it could be positive. It's good. V'nesarais, but it's the reverse. The word nesarais means it's the opposite with neshikisayna, when you get a kiss from an enemy. So he explains. And now he's going to come back to the pasuk that we just mentioned about the reed that's floating in the water. Toiva klala shekilel achia shiloni es Yisrael. It's better, the curse that achia shiloni cursed the Yidden, which is the previous pasuk, that's achia shiloni speaking, v'hika Hashem es Yisrael. So that curse of achia shiloni is better for Yidden, mibracha shebircham bilam arasha, than the blessing that bilam arasha benches Yidden. Chia Shilaini Kilalon, Chia Shilaini, when he curses Yidden, the Eibusher will smack them. What does it say? Bekona. He says that Yidden are going to be compared to a reed that's in the water. So really he's saying a blessing. Amalam li Yisrael, he says to the Yidden, V'hika Hashem es Yisrael kashayana da kone, like this kone that is moving around in the water. So the blessing here is as follows. Ma kone zeh, just like these reeds that grow in the water. Oyimid b'mokim mayim, they grow, they stand in the place of water. The gizoy machlif, and when the stalk, the root of it, even when it falls off, the parts that come out of it get detached and it falls off, but it always refreshes. It always continues growing again. And v'sharashav merubin, and it has a lot of roots that hold it very firmly there in this water, that it doesn't get destroyed. Even all kinds of strong winds in the world come and blow in it. It does not remove it from its place, because it's a reed and it blows along with the wind, and therefore it can remain in its place. It goes along with the wind. And when the winds calm down, you'll see that the wind still stays in its place. So therefore, the pasuk here seems to be saying a klala that the Eibusher will hit the Yidden, but yet it's really a bracha, showing that throughout all the winds of Galos, the Yidden will last and stay in their place. But on the other hand, Bilam Arasha, Birchan Be'eres, he benches Yidden to be compared like a cedar tree. Shanema ka'arazim, ale mayim. It doesn't actually say in the pasuk there ale mayim. The Gemara adds it, even if you have a cedar tree that's in water, but in the pasuk there it just says that he compares them to cedar trees. And now, why is this really not a blessing? Ma erezeh, when you have a cedar tree, it can't last in water. And ve'ein gizei machlef, and the stump of the tree, if the branches or the fall off, it's not going to ever refresh and produce branches again. And ve'ein sharashav merubin, it doesn't have a lot of very strong roots. So even if you're going to say that it's still a pretty strong tree, and even if you have a lot of winds that are blowing on it, it's not going to move it from its place. But when you have a wind that comes out of the south, which is a very strong wind, Rashi here brings the source from the Gemara and Baba Basra that it's a unique, strong kind of a wind. It'll uproot it and it'll fall on its face. Okay, so this is the curse that you see in the words of Bilam, even though he said that they're compared to a cedar tree, but there's really a curse here. The Gemara goes back now to the reed that's in the water, that what's the blessing that there is in a reed? The reed merits that little himeno kulmus. You can take this reed and use it as a kulmus, as a quill. Lichtav by sefer Torah, neviim, ksuvim, to write with it a sefer Torah or neviim and ksuvim. So you could do a mitzvah with it. You could write a sefer Torah with it. So this is the hidden blessing that there is in this pasuk. Now based on this pasuk, the Gemara brings a similar inyan. A person should always be soft like a reed that bends. And he shouldn't be firm and stubborn like a cedar tree. And the Gemara brings an incident. Rab Elazar ben Rab Shimon was coming from the place called Migdal Gadol, from the house of his teacher. And he's riding on a donkey. And he's going on the river bank. and v'samach simcha gedela, and he was very happy about the Torah that he learned. And and he was feeling very proud of himself because of all of the Torah that he learned. What happens? He encounters an individual, which was very ugly looking. So this ugly looking individual greets Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon and says Shalom Aleichem to him. Rashi and Taisus both point out that there are some Sfarim that say that this was Eliyahu Navi, and he was here to test him to see how he's going to respond to him. And Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon did not answer him. And he says to him, Reika, you empty person, Kama Mechur Oisei Ish. How ugly looking is this person? Shema Kol B'nei Ircha Mechuaren Kamaischa. Are all people of your city as ugly looking as you? So this person responds to Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon and says, Eini Yedeya, I don't know. Ella, however, Leich ve'amir le'uman shasani. Go and complain to the craftsman that has created me, that has made me. In other words, the Eibishter, go speak to him about this. And say to the Eibishter, Kama mechur kelizeh shasisa. How ugly is this vessel that you have made? Kivin sheyada ba'atzmei shachata. So Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon realized that he said the wrong thing. He realized that he did an aveda here. Yarad ben achamayr. He got off of his donkey. V'nishtateach lefanov, and he bowed down to this individual. V'amar lo, and he said, Ne'nesilach, I've overspoken to you. What I said was wrong. M'chayli, forgive me for this. Amar lo, he says to Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon, Eini moichalacha, I will not forgive you. At shetelech le'uman sha'asani, until you go to the Eibishter that has created me. Ve'amar lo, and tell him, Kama mechur keli zeh sha'asisa. How ugly is this keli that you created? Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon followed him until he got to his city where this person was from. And now people saw that Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon is here in the city. People came out to greet Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon. Such a great Tana. And they were saying to Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon, Shalom Alecha Rabbi, peace unto you, our Rebbe, mighty. So they're all greeting him with the greatest honor. Amar lehem, so this ugly individual tells the people, Lemiatum kaidem Rabbi, who are you referring to as your Rebbe? Amrulai lezesh metayel acharecha, this person that is walking behind you. Amar lehem, so this person says to them, Im zeh Rabbi, if this person is a Rebbe, al yirbu kamaisa bi Yisrael, there shouldn't be many like him amongst the Yidden. Amrulai, so they said to this person, Mipnei ma, why not? Amar lehem, so he says to them, Kach v'kach asali, this is the comment that he said to me. Amrulai, so they said to this person, Afal Pikain, but yet, nevertheless, Mechaylai, forgive him, Sha'adam Gadol b'Tayrehu, because he's a great person in Tayreh. Amalehem, so this ugly person says, B'shvilchem hareini Mechaylai, for your sake I will forgive him, Ubulvat Shalo Yehei Ragal Lasis came, but only that he should not be accustomed to doing this again in the future. Miyad nichnas Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon v'darash, or immediately Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon went and darshan the drasha that he said before. La'olam yei adam rach kekana. A person should always be soft like a reed, v'al yei kasha keres, and he should not be firm and stubborn like a cedar tree. Lefichach zacha, and therefore this reed that's soft merits the kana little a meno that you can take from it to make a kulmis, a quill, lichtav b'sefer Torah, tefillin and mezuzah. To write from it a sefer Torah, tefillin and mezuzah. This is a story here in the Gemara. As I see here, the simple pshat of the story, and as I mentioned, Rashi and Taisus say that this was Eliyahu Navi. But in a Sikha, the Rebbe has a beautiful pshat on this Gemara, and the Rebbe says, think about this. Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon didn't realize the simple thing that there's no reason to embarrass a person and to say that he's ugly. Of course, the Eibusha created him. How could Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon say this? Elamai, the Gemara, the Rebbe says that when he sees that this person is physically ugly, that means that he was beruchnius on a very low level. And Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon was trying to be ma'iridim l'tshuva. Sometimes the only way you can get a person to do tshuva is when you shake him out of a place that he's so low, and you have to make him realize how low he is. Like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perik Chavtes, sometimes a person needs that bitush to break the klippa that he's in. That's what Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon was intending to do, and he actually succeeded. Because how did the person respond? Leich loman sha'asani, go to the Eibishter that has created me. In other words, he brought out of the person an awareness of the Eibishter. So then what's the pshat on the continuation of the Gemara when it says that Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon regretted what he did? Because Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon realized that if this person immediately responded this way, Leich loman sha'asani, it must be that he wasn't so low after all. and therefore he shouldn't have embarrassed him to this extent. So he made a mistake, he misvalued, he thought that he was in such a low darga that he needed this shake-up, but he realized that he made that mistake because he right away responded, Leich lo mishasani, and therefore he says the person has to be a rach kekana and not jump right away to say such a sharp var to a person in order to be ma'ated him. A city that has a plague, or there's walls that are collapsing because of the hurricanes that there are. So in such a city also you have to immediately scream out to the Eibishter. So when you have these walls that are collapsing, so it's referring to a situation where you have these strong walls, and not when you have these very weak walls that are collapsing. Because in other words, that's something that would be usual. But the point is, when you have a wall that's strong and it's still going to fall, then it's a time when there's a wind, so that's something you should scream out for. And also it says, and walls that are not fit to fall, they're strong walls. And not walls that are fit to fall. So the Gemara now questions, the Brisa seems to be redundant. It's the same thing. The walls that are strong and walls that are not fit to fall, it's one of the same thing. And then when you say that there's the weak walls and the walls that are fit to fall, it's the same thing again. So why is the Brisa being redundant? So the Gemara explains, no, what we need to say both of these expressions because it doesn't mean the same thing. The naflo machmas guvhayu. Sometimes you can have a wall that's very strong, but yet it's very tall. So therefore it could fall because it's a very tall wall. So that's a wall that's fit to fall because of its height. Inami, or you have a wall, the kaimen aguda denada, which is by the water, by the riverbank, and over there, even though it's very, very strong, but nevertheless it's fit to fall because of the water that could affect it. Kiahi ashisa re'ua, the have ben arda. There was this wall that was very weak, that was in the city of Nerda. The Rav Shmuel Tusa. Rav and Shmuel did not want to pass by over there, beneath this wall. Avagav the Kaime Basra Tleisa Shnin, even though that wall was there already for 13 years. Okay, so this is actually a third example, because here, this is considered to be a wall that is sort of not fit to fall, because it's been there for so many years, but yet the wall is weak because it's an old wall, and therefore it's not strong anymore, and it's fit to fall. Yayim Echad, one day what happened was with this wall, this area, that they would not want to go there. Ikla Rav Ada bar Ava lahasam. Rav Ada bar Ava was there. Omar le Shmuel Rav. So Shmuel says to Rav, Neisi mar nokif. Let's make a detour. Let's go around and not go in that area where you have this wall, which is dangerous. It could fall. Amalei, so he says to him, now that Rav Ada bar Ava is here, we don't have to make a detour, we don't have to go away. Now we don't have to go away. Why? Because Rav Ada bar Ava, which is a great tzaddik, is with us, the Nafish Zechusei, he has a lot of merits, V'lei mistafina, and we're not afraid about what's going to happen. So this is the tremendous schos of Rav Ada bar Ava. The Gemara brings another incident about the schos of Rav Ada bar Ava. Rav Hone haveleahu chamre ba'ahu beise re'iyah. He had a donkey that was inside a barn or a house that was the walls were very weak and they were about to collapse. Ubaye lefanuye. He wanted to go inside to empty out, to take out the donkey from there. Or maybe this refers to wine. Chamre sometimes refers to wine. You have the other translation?
He says wine. He says wine here.
Yeah, it refers to wine. Okay, very good. So Bekitzer, he had this wine storage and he wanted to take out the wine from this place. But he was afraid to go in there because it's so dangerous. So what did he do? So he went in there along with Rav Ada bar Ava. How did he do this? Because Moshche b'shmaite, he was engaging him in a conversation and learning Torah. And Ada Panye, until he was talking to him, and while he had Rav Ada bar Ava in there, he was able to have the place emptied out. Basa the Nafik, and then as soon as they left this storage place, Nafak Beisa, the house, the walls collapsed. Argish Rav Ada bar Ava, and then noticed what had happened here, that he distracted him with learning and brought him into this place in order to be able to empty it out. Ikpid, and he was very upset about this, that they used him out for this. So Savarla, he held, Kihad Amar Rab Yanai, he held like what Rab Yanai said, La'olam al Yamid Adam b'mokim sakana. A person should not ever put himself in a place that's a danger. And v'yaymer, and I'll say, Oisin li nes, the Eibush is going to perform a miracle for me. Because, first of all, maybe the Eibusha will not perform a miracle for you. Maybe you're not worthy for a miracle. And if the Eibusha will perform a miracle for you, every time the Eibusha does a miracle for you, it takes away from the person's merits. So therefore, Rav Ada bar Ava was very upset that they used him out for this miracle. Amar Rav Chanan, my kara, what's the source for that the Eibusha takes away your merits? Yaakov says that because of all of the kindness that the Eibusha has done with me, so therefore I'm small. In other words, it took away from his merits. My hava uvdei de Rav Ada bar Ava. Now, why was Rav Ada bar Ava such a great individual that he had such great schusim? So the Gemara says, Kiha, the Itmer, so this is like this that we learn. Shalu Talmidov, Rav Ada bar Ava. His students, they asked Rav Ada bar Ava, Bameh herachta yomim. With what is it that you merited for long life? Amalehem, so he said to them the following things. My entire lifetime, I was never particular, I never got angry in my house. And I did never walk the head of someone that's greater than me. And also, I never thought words of Torah in places that are alleyways that have things that are unclean there. I never walked 4 amis without Torah or without wearing tefillin. I never slept in a beis medrash, not permanently or even temporarily. And I was never happy when I saw something going bad for my friend. I never referred to my friend with a nickname, not his proper name, or some others say with his surname, in other words, with a family name. I always referred to him with his own name. So these are the things that were the tremendous zechusim of Rav Ada bar Ava. Amale Rafram bar Pape. Rava said to Rafram bar Pape, Lemulon Mar, the master should tell us, Mahani Mili Ma'al Yased, Ahava Ovid Rav Huna, about the great things that Rav Huna did. He also had tremendous merits. Amale, so he said, Biyankuse Loy Dachirne. As far as his young age, I don't remember him then. Besivuse, that is, in his older age, Dachirne. I could remember and I can tell you the following things. Anytime it was a cloudy day and they were afraid of a rain or a wind, and there was a danger that walls in the city could fall down and hurt people, what would he do? Have a mafkinle begoharke de dava. He would go out in this very expensive golden wagon, v'sayile lekulamas, and he would go out in the entire city. So the Mefarshim say he would go out with this wagon in order to get the attention of people, so people should see and know that this is serious. And what would he do? Anytime he saw a wall that was very weak, he would break that wall so it shouldn't fall during this hurricane and hurt someone. And now, what happened afterwards? If the owner of that wall had the means, Banila, so he would build it up on his own. But if he would not have the means, Banila Rav Huna, he would rebuild that wall from his own money. And another thing, another one of the merits of Rav Huna, v'cholpanya the Maila Shabbata. Every time it was late afternoon on Erev Shabbos, have a mishad shlucha l'shuka, he would send a messenger to the marketplace. V'chol yarked ava payish, any of the vegetables that were left over there, liginoi, for the gardeners that were selling the vegetables. Zavenle, he would buy it. V'shadile lenara, and he would throw it into the river. The Gemara will soon explain why he did this, why he would go and buy the extra vegetables. Now he threw it into the river though. So the Gemara asks, why is he throwing it into the river? Let him give it to poor people to eat. So the Gemara says, no, he didn't want to do that because Zimnin, the Samcha Datayu, if he's going to do this and give it to them, so they're going to rely on this and they're going to say, we don't have to buy earlier on because in the end, he's going to give us from the leftovers. And they're not going to buy earlier on, and therefore, in the future, there may not be extra and they won't have what to eat. Let him at least give it to eat to the animals. And for the Gemara, Kasavar, he held, Maichel Adam ein machilin lebehema. Food that's for human consumption, you're not supposed to give to eat for the animals. Right? Rashi says the reason is, Bizu Yechlin. You're not supposed to use food in a disgraceful way. It looks like you're not appreciating the good that the Eibusha gives for a human being. Right? Or Rashi brings a Teira Chasal Mamayim Shel Yisrael. So Rashi says, no, so why did he throw it into the river? That's better. So Rashi says, yeah, because you throw it into the river, it's going to flow to a different place, and other people in a different location will discover it, and therefore people are going to eat it and not animals. So why does he shouldn't buy these vegetables at all? If he has no use for it, so why was he buying it? So the answer is nimtzes machshilon la'asad lavai. Because if he's not going to buy these vegetables, so these gardeners are going to say, oh look, we don't have to bring so much vegetables to sell because we don't have customers to buy them. In the future, there may not be enough food to buy on an Erev Shabbos. So therefore he would go ahead and buy this on Erev Shabbos to make sure that in the future the gardeners will bring enough vegetables. Another thing was that he did ki havale milse das vase, when he had something which was a good medicine, have a mali kuze, he would fill a jug of this or a cup of this. The Bach takes out the word the maya kuze. He would fill this up. The Bach adds, instead of the word the maya, he says minei, from this v'tolile b'sefer the beisa, and he would hang it on the opening of his house for everybody to see and come and take from it. He would share it with everybody. And Vama called the boy Leise Velishkal. Whoever wants to come and take from this. Vekedamri, others say a bit differently. Milse the Shifsa have a Gomar, that he had Milse the Shifsa. What is this? 1 second. He had a certain something that for shadim. He knew something that you can use for shadim, to get away the shadim. V'avamonach kuza de maya, and he would put water. He would put a jug of water there, v'dalile, and he would draw this water that could be used for this. And v'amar, and he said, kol ditzrich, anybody that needs this water, leisi v'leil, let him come in and take from this. The loyal is stakin, in order for him not to get into danger. Okay, so what this was referring to is, as Rashi here says, a person that doesn't wash his hands. If you don't wash your hands when you're supposed to wash your hands, then you expose yourself to shadim. So therefore he would make water available for people that they shouldn't be affected and hurt by the shadim, so they have water. Another thing, you have a karech rifta. When he would be breaking bread, he would be eating a suda. Have a pasach levave, he would open his heart, and va'amar, and he said, kol man ditzrich, whoever needs food, leisi v'lecho, should come and eat, should come and join me in my meal. Rava commented about this. Kulu matzinim mekayma. All of the things that Rav Huna did, I'm able to fulfill. Lebar meha, besides this last thing. The lemetzinu lemeva, that I can't do this. Why not? Mishum de nefishi b'nechela de mechuza. There are so many people in mechuza that are poor and need food, and if I invite everybody to come and join me with my meal, I'm not going to have anything to eat. So this last thing, he says, I can't do.